Hey everyone, I'm the Bad Otter. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing Rohan at the Louvre, the Louvre-inspired manga for JoJo with Rohan in it. That's a good way to describe it. That's what the title says. I don't actually know when this came out, but I do know that a lot of the Rohan stuff is not published here in America, and by a lot of it, I mean all of it. This is the only Rohan one-shot that is available currently here in America, though I did hear that the Thus Spoke Rohan series is going to be coming later this fall, probably in August or November, alongside the release of the next volume of Golden Wind. No, the next volume of Golden Wind comes out. Regardless, as of now, this is the only Rohan one-shot that's available in America, and if I'm being honest, it's probably one of the best ones that you could get, especially for the art. Because in this case, as you can clearly see here, all of the interior pages are fully painted, for the most part. There are some shots where Araki doesn't paint and just uses line art, but we'll get to that in a minute. I have actually been holding on to this for a little while. So making videos, right? I have a really messy setup with my artwork and everything, so I have to clean it up every time I make a video so that way I could record, and I'm really lazy. Would you believe that? I'm more of an artist than I am a video maker. But regardless, if I have the book, I might as well review it. And, yeah, so initial thoughts on it, I like it. It's JoJo. I'm gonna like it. I like the writing style, I like the art style, everything about it. So if you're a fan of JoJo, definitely go get it. But to get into the nitty-gritty, I really like the color scheme on the cover and a lot of the larger pieces that he did for it, especially with the paint. You can see the Louvre here in the background with the pyramid there. I like Rohan's design. Everybody's seen the fashion model reference for his face. I mean, his pose there. But I think that it gives Araki an opportunity to experiment with a lot of different artistic ideas than he would in a normal JoJo book, because he's illustrating them at the Louvre, so that's the center for artwork. That's where a lot of the Renaissance art is that you can view, so why not play around with a lot of different ideas that you otherwise wouldn't be able to do? And with his style, I mean, as you can see here, he's very good at illustrating this three-dimensionality in these statues. That's actually one of my favorite things that he will do from time to time, is illustrate characters like statues. He did it with Funny Valentine in part 7, and he did it on a cover of part 4 with Josuke and Crazy Diamond. So getting into it, it starts off with a little bit of an origin story. Now, I have no idea how much of this is canon, how much isn't canon, depending on where it goes. If you want to know that, go talk to that Hamon Beat guy. He'll tell you all about that. So don't take my word on any of this, take his. But it starts in the normal JoJo fashion. It asks you a question, it kind of reels you in and tells you about these different things, which basically gives you the ending, and then it gives you the beginning. So Rohan is staying with his grandmother in this little inn, that they've got, and he's staying there for the summer. He hasn't become an official manga illustrator yet, and so he's working on the stuff, and he finds, would you believe it, a woman. Can you believe that? So this woman becomes a very important player. That's why they drew her half naked. So he's just lounging around, and the grandmother's being the grandmother, real strict. And he's a teenager. I think he's 18. I would read it, but I don't like to read on camera. So he develops an interest in this girl. You know, he's an artist developing his skills, so he starts drawing her. And he gets caught like a kid does. And he's like, oh, no, I was drawing you because you're really hot. Oh, no, that's not what I meant. That's what he's saying to her. But she's kind of chill with it. So they develop this weird relationship that she wants to start looking at his artwork, and he doesn't want her to because he's embarrassed, he's insecure. He's like, I'm not yet a manga illustrator. I don't want to show you. And throughout this setting, you get a lot of good shots like this, since I like to review the artwork as well. And that is shots like this, where they say something and they freeze you like a statue. They look like a marble statue, and they're frozen like a statue. Here with Rohan, the way that he's painted in the scene. And as you'll notice as the book goes on, the highlight, the filter, that's the 21st century way of putting it, changes depending on what part of the story we're in. So here it's a very evening kind of tone to it, but later on, whenever you get to the Louvre, and you leave Japan, because it's still like that in Japan, you get this more cotton candy blue and pink color scheme going on with the lighting and everything like that, which I really like the change up of the lighting and the setting. So this girl is enigmatic. He doesn't know what her deal is. She wants to know what his deal is, and she keeps on running off, talking to him about his artwork, and eventually she runs off for good. But first she tells him a story about the MacGuffin, is that the right way to use that? Of the story, which is the blackest, darkest pigment ever. And it was found by this Japanese guy in a tree, and he made some piece of artwork that's super hateful and it's killed people. And she tells him all about that. She answers the phone. All of a sudden, she starts crying and gaslights him and runs away. Y'all love my summaries. And he's like, oh no, why is she running away? And with a bit of foreshadowing, because a lot of the book hinges on that dark pigment, you'll notice that Araki has a lot of black skies whenever he gets the chance. There was that instance and the instance earlier in the story where it's completely black. Based on all Araki's illustrations that I've looked at, which is pretty much all of them, he doesn't do this a lot with the black skies. So it's very much thematic of what this book is going for with the whole MacGuffin of the story, the black pigment. And if you pay attention to the chopped down tree, wherever it is, if I can find it, you'll notice that something is really important there that is in the book later. You see, because the pigment comes out of the tree, which is super duper old. So you see the way it's illustrated there. That'll be important later. Keep that in mind, you'll get tested. And so, talking to her, she comes back to him crying after the first time she ran off. And he's about to look inside her because he has Heaven's Door. But then he says, no, I want to figure it out naturally. Until she sees that he drew her, and she tears up the manga. She throws a fit, I guess, and gets really upset, tears it all up, says sorry, leaves. And that time she leaves for good, until Okuyasu says, hey, you really look like Mona Lisa. So he poses like that, like the Mona Lisa. Because this is what Araki thinks of the Mona Lisa, as you can tell. Very high praise, the way that he drew Okuyasu there. That kind of triggers a memory in Rohan's head about this woman. So he, being the world-renowned mangaka that he is, goes to the Louvre to check out that painting. He asks the translator about it, and they tell him, we don't know anything about it. And he's like, yeah, you do. So they do. They end up learning that it's in a very defunct spot. They said nothing's been stored there for years. That's really weird. So they get a security detail. They walk all the way down there. And as they do, you get these very well-illustrated drawings and paintings of the Louvre itself, which you'll find litter this entire book. I mean, Araki doing fully colored, illustrated artwork. I mean, his work really shines like this. This is a really good way of him illustrating his work, because already whenever he does colors and implements colors into his work, it adds so much more power. I'm really blanking on these words today. But it adds a lot more vibrance. It really expresses his ideas far better than just the black and white. And while he's really excellent at the black and white, as you can see just from the illustrations here alone, in capturing moods and environments, settings, and characters and expressions, all of those different things that you express with artwork, he excels in whenever you allow him to use color in his sequential artwork. So I think that really shines out his ability to not only do black and white, but do it in color as well. It stands out like a sore thumb in this book. And by a sore thumb, I mean in the good way. So they start going down to these old defunct storage units for the artwork, and it just keeps on getting darker and darker. They still think, how could it possibly be down here? And as they do, we get a glimpse of the piece in the walls where they're storing it. And as they open that up, all of a sudden, things start to go awry. It's like there are ghosts. They say, well, we need to get this out of here. We need to look at it. But it looks like there's somebody down here with us. And all of a sudden, all these crazy shenanigans start happening. They're looking for people. They can't see the figures. There's shadow figures everywhere. And Araki, since he uses the Rohan one-shots to illustrate horror, which was his first love before JoJo, he gets to shine in that aspect as well. The guards start to drop like flies. Blood starts going everywhere. Nobody can really tell what's happening. It's like, hey, what's going on here? And this guy's brains are falling out. This is a really good depiction, by the way, considering all of the grotesque ways that Araki illustrates stands. To put that onto a human and have all the organs come out while he's at it, you can tell that he has a lot of fun with pages like this, especially whenever he gets to color it. So that's what happens. That's what happens. Man, I enjoy videos. So the guy starts to fall over, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's happening? What's going on? Everybody's freaking out. I mean, look at that. What's happening, right? Yeah, I don't know either. So his head's being blown off, and they start seeing all these sorts of things. He's getting thrown around. Blood is everywhere. And it's just absolute chaos. All of a sudden, this woman starts seeing her dead son. This is Rohan's grandma. Where are all these people coming from? They're coming from nowhere. These people are dead. She sees him, and this is whenever he starts to piece it together. This guy starts seeing his buddies that he committed war crimes with. Rohan turns into a statue again, and it's just one thing after another. It keeps on hooking you in. Until finally everybody, again, they're still dropping, and Rohan's the only one that hasn't, but you see all these zombies everywhere, and you still can't figure out what's happening with these wonderful illustrations to accompany you on your journey of figuring out what's happening. Have you figured it out yet? So there's the grandma, and he's like, wait, but she's dead. And he's like, wait, my son's dead. And the son touches her, and she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, I wasn't able to help you. He reads them, and they're all dead. It doesn't make any sense. Until finally, he starts to piece together that there's some aura emanating off the artwork, off the painting. And the painting itself is a familiar face. And so as the woman goes to get her son, the guilt of it starts to fill her with water. And she ends up blowing up like a water balloon. And Rohan finally starts to piece it together as the woman from earlier starts coming out of the painting. That's real relevant. So he thinks he's dreaming, when in reality, as we soon find out, these things are eating him alive. He uses Heaven's Door to erase all of his memories as the woman starts apologizing, saying, don't be angry, please. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to do this to you. And he figures out that all of these people were people that died, obviously. And they're using the guilt. This spiritual entity is using the guilt of all that to come back and literally haunt these people to the point where they die of their own guilt. Rohan, he's able to save himself by erasing all of his memories, therefore having no guilt and having no memories of any of these people, because it's based solely on the person's memories, crawls up to safety and figures it all out. So it turns out, big reveal time, that the pigment here that the painter had extracted from the 2,000-year-old tree was actually a bunch of these spider-like beings that would crawl inside their ears, crawl into their brains, take advantage of all those emotions that they had, and use the hatred from the people who died while they were painting that those spiders had absorbed to then spread that hatred and kill all of the people who went to view the artwork. That's why it's an infinitely dark pigment, because the darkness absorbs all the hate, all the negative emotion and everything like that, and takes it out on any unsuspecting viewer. So really nice illustrations with the black everything, right? The spider webs, really good at setting the tone. I know that I was pretty, all bombastic while it was happening. But the tone itself is very eerie. It's very unsettling whenever he's illustrating it, and you could tell that with the color changes and everything like that, and the use of the black pigment to reflect the themes of the story. And overall, there's a big explanation for how Nanase, which is the woman's name, comes to Rohan to meet Rohan, despite the fact that she's really old and his grandmother or something like that, his great grandmother. But I'm gonna be honest, I've read it 4 or 5 times and I still don't understand it, so I would hate to explain it to you guys in a way that's probably even more confusing. But you can appreciate this really good shot, this pinup of that character in the wind, in the pink, fully colored, really good illustration of the figure. Good stuff. And you get a couple more for the road as it ends, with Rohan explaining everything, like, oh, well, she was actually the painter's husband who discovered that, and he was executed, and she died, and that's why she didn't want him drawing her in any of his artwork, because, you know, then she would haunt him and kill him. And he's like, well, that's what happens whenever you have a first love. So Rohan's first love was actually his great-grandmother, which for Rohan, let's be honest, that's not very surprising. So he's reflecting on it, and we get those last 2 for the road, which are really nice. This was drawn, obviously, in tribute to the Louvre Museum, something that Araki himself was featured in and has very high respect for. So, all in all, this was a very JoJo book because the explanation is so convoluted that I can't even understand it after reading it a few times. But the artwork is excellent as usual, and in my opinion, in this book, it excels far beyond whatever he does in his traditional manga, only because he gets the opportunity to fully color each page and really show exactly what he's thinking whenever he's illustrating these books, because of the fact that he can color it. And I think that adds a lot more creative liberty to what he's doing. And so if you think, oh, well, he can already do really good in black and white, well, just imagine what he could do if he has full access to the color scheme of each one of his pages and doesn't have to do it in black and white, because you get very vivid and emotional shots in his panel-to-panel work that you don't always get with a lot of artists. But whenever your artist is also your writer and colorist, then he's able to perfectly express whatever he's thinking in the page, because he's proficient in each medium, in drawing and painting and in writing, and in the sequential artwork, which is a skill in itself. So I think that from an artistic perspective, this book is definitely something that I would recommend to anybody studying sequential art and is interested in fully illustrating with color and ink your own sequential artwork and storytelling. In terms of the storytelling, it's obviously JoJo. You get what you get with JoJo. And to me, this is some of his greatest artwork with the current style that he has. The style now, towards the end of JoJolion, it tends to give me a stroke, which sounds weird, but I look at it and I can't focus on it. And it might just be because I'm looking at it on a screen and black and white doesn't go well on a screen. But there's something about this new artwork that really trips me up. And I don't think it's bad. I think I just need to look at it a little harder, try to understand better what I'm looking at. But in the best of ways, it's rough around the edges. This is far from that. So yeah, I hope you guys liked the review. And if you want to hear more from me and you want to see my own artwork, be sure to follow me at TheBatOtter on Instagram. I post all of my artwork there, any updates, and you are completely free to DM me and order commissions. I will get them shipped out to you. And we are introducing t-shirts. So if you're interested in any of that, with that cute little bat otter that you see, be sure to follow me on there. Be sure to subscribe. Be sure to like. And be sure to come back, because I'm going to review the first volume of Berserk next. So yeah, I'll see y'all then.